Hello everyone! Thank you for visiting our channel. Have you ever experienced such like stories? What are the photo shoots this time? James asked as his wife packed her bag in the morning. Lauren was distracted from her work and answered outerwear. I hope this studio has air conditioning. Otherwise, we'll have to sweat for several hours in our down jackets and coats. Lauren worked as a model for various stores and catalogs. She was very slender and tall, which allowed her to look beautiful in anything. Before marrying James, she used to do lingerie photo shoots, but her conservative husband requested that she stick to more covered-up clothing. The number of orders decreased, but the demand did not. Lauren compromised, but occasionally still argued with James about what was acceptable and what was not. For her, modeling was just a regular job like any other. She didn't see anything wrong with photo shoots of different content, since customers have different requests. One day, James was home on his day off, while Lauren went to visit her sister. She had been inviting her to come all week, but Lauren couldn't because of her busy schedule. James lay on the couch and scrolled through social media when he remembered that he was going to go shopping on the weekend. He needed to buy a couple of new shirts for work. He didn't want to leave the house, especially to go to a crowded shopping center. The man decided to order clothes with a fitting at home. He had already entered a major website and was about to clarify the search details, but he stopped. A banner with a young woman appeared on the main page. It was an advertisement for a lingerie store, but that wasn't what bothered him. His wife was in the photo, even though they had agreed long ago that she wouldn't participate in such shoots. The thought of his semi-naked wife being seen by strangers disgusted James. Moreover, he believed that such things only contribute to moral degradation. He didn't want his wife to participate in such things. When Lauren returned home, her husband called her for a conversation, showing her photos from a website. "We agreed on this," her husband sighed heavily. "Listen, on that day, the girl who was supposed to model for this collection got sick. They asked me to replace her. I helped her out." Lauren justified herself. "But you could have at least told me and asked for my opinion." Her husband persisted. "James, why you start again? I'm not posing naked there, relax. It's just a regular commercial shoot. What's the big deal?" And it was another old issue that they had argued about many times. Lauren was uncomfortable with the fact that her husband constantly limited her in something. It could be both her appearance and work. She saw some insecurity in her man in this. And her husband was very upset about this situation because there were agreements, and his wife treated them so lightly. After this conflict, others followed, mainly on minor household issues. The old dispute had subsided, but there was still a residue, as they say. A month later, the relationship between the spouses had more or less improved. There were no more violent conflicts between them. Everything was relatively calm. But sometimes Lauren behaved somewhat distant. One evening she was sitting in front of the TV and watching a TV series. James had just returned from work and had barely eaten. His wife did not join him for dinner, citing a lack of appetite. When James entered the living room, a commercial break had just begun on TV, and his wife had gone to the bathroom. Literally a minute later, her phone, which she left on the coffee table, vibrated. Her husband picked it up, and a call from a contact named Tyler Photographer appeared on the screen. This seemed strange to him. James's wife had said that there wouldn't be any photo shoots for the next few weeks. So why would a photographer call her at this time? It seemed like it wasn't work-related. James carefully put the phone back on the table when Lauren returned. He pretended to be engrossed in something on his smartphone. She picked up the phone that had just rung, looked at the missed call screen, and then glanced cautiously at her husband. Had he noticed the call or not? A couple of hours before bed, James decided to ask a control question. "Lauren, are you going to be home these weeks? Are there any photo sessions planned?" "No, there aren't," his wife answered dryly and turned away. "Good night." The next day at breakfast, Lauren said she was going to visit her friend. The friend had broken up with her boyfriend again, was terribly upset, and needed a supportive friend nearby. She said it as if it had been prepared in advance. "Do you want me to drive you to your friend?" her husband asked, sensing something was off. "No, "I'll take a taxi. It's not far," she replied. His wife's story was really plausible. He remembered something about her friend and her constant personal failures. But something was bothering him. He still couldn't get that late call from someone named Tyler and his wife's detachment lately out of his head. Just to be sure, he decided to check if Lauren was telling the truth or not. The man waited until the taxi arrived and his wife left the house. He carefully followed and ran to his car. After tracking where the taxi stopped, James parked a few houses away from the destination and approached a little closer, hiding behind buildings. Lauren was standing outside a large photo studio in the city center, where most of her shoots were done. She said there wouldn't be any, the man thought, but soon he saw the real reason for his wife's visit here. A young man came out of the building with a heavy bag of photography equipment. It was clear that Lauren was delighted to see him. They warmly embraced and went somewhere together. Apparently, this was Tyler. Surprisingly, they didn't walk far from their meeting place and turned into another building. When James got closer, he saw that it was a different photo studio. Carefully following the young man and his wife through the window, he saw the administrator escorting them somewhere. Apparently, they decided to arrange some personal photo shoot. The fact that his wife lied to him about where and with whom she was going was terrible. But then something even worse happened. James saw the photographer leading Lauren into the hall, huffing her tightly and gradually lowering his hand lower and lower. James barely held back from bursting into the studio and smashing the guy's face. But then Lauren would twist everything as if he just went crazy and attacked innocent people. He decides to do it differently. When the couple went into the far hall, the man entered the studio and approached the administrator. "Excuse me, could you show me the available rooms? I'm looking for locations for a shoot," he said. Of course, most of the rooms were currently occupied, but there were a few available. They walked down the corridor, and the administrator pointed to the neighboring door to where Lauren went with the photographer. "There's a pretty spacious room here, and there's also a large balcony that is shared with the neighboring hall," said the administrator. James realized that this was what he needed. He made sure that the room was available in the next few hours and rented it. The man carefully watched the shoot in the neighboring room. At first, everything was decent, but then the photo shoot began to take a very serious turn. Lauren started undressing, and at some point Tyler rushed to kiss her and knocked her down on the couch. James burst into the room, pushed the photographer aside with all his strength, and began shaking his wife by the shoulders. When the guy tried to attack James, he pushed him away again and then smashed his camera. There were loud discussions about the situation. Lauren claimed she didn't expect such behavior from the photographer and that it was unacceptable for her as well. When her husband asked why she had said she was going to visit her friend, she couldn't come up with an answer. "I'm not cheating on you, James," she screamed. "Then show me your phone right now. All your messages," her husband said, reaching out his hand. The woman looked away in confusion. It was more eloquent than any words. Lauren's things were thrown out the door, and later the couple divorced. James was in shock for a long time, but eventually he calmed down. He realized that it's better to find out everything about the person you live with right away, because it will only be more painful to realize later that you trusted someone who could betray you so cruelly. What do you think about this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. And thank you for listening to the story until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be sure to like this video, as it will help us promote the channel. All the best.